Let us go to the phone lines and say hello to our first guest of the day. He was in Eddie Alvarez's corner on Saturday night. He is one of the most respected coaches in the sport, one of the head guys, the Ricardo Almeida fight team in New Jersey. Like I said, his stable is unmatched by any other, and I truly believe that he is one of the very best at what he does. He is Mark Henry, and he joins us now via the phone. Mark, how are you?
Good, buddy. I thought this call was you wanted that award back.
No, not at all. Are you kidding me? Stop it with that.
I thought you wanted to grab it back from me, man.
No.
I'll give it back, though.
Yeah, and of course, Mark is referencing the fact that both him and Almeida were my coaches of the year in 2017, and we will get into Saturday night, and I appreciate his candor here, and I appreciate the self-deprecating nature of your opening statement there, but of course, everyone knows what you're referring to, Mark. Tough night for you guys. Eddie Alvarez loses to Dustin Poirier in the second round in a phenomenal fight. It somehow exceeded expectations. Before we get into what happened during the fight, I just have to ask, how is Eddie doing? Health-wise, physically, mentally? Can you give us an update on his state on this Monday afternoon?
Eddie's a warrior, man. You know, he's always going to bounce back strong. You know, he's proven it a ton of times, and, you know, he'll bounce back from this. You know, he bounced back from, you know, Connor to an amazing war with Gaethje, and, you know, this one will be the same, you know, but you're still going to have that time span where you're a little bummed. You put so much into the training aspect of it and the countless hours of, you know, training and preparing for this fight, and then, you know, in one split second it's over and, you know, it didn't go your way. So right now we're kind of in all the mourning period, you know. I talked to him this morning, but he's, you know, he's definitely positive and you know, the same Eddie that's made out of granite, you know. Keep going, you know.
Obviously you were confident. Obviously you thought that he was going to win. Was there any part of you that in the back of your mind you were worried about this outcome? Was there something about Dustin and something about the first fight that had you a little less confident going into this fight? Are you completely shocked by this result?
No, not at all. Dustin Poirier is a beast. Dustin Poirier is beyond precise with his punches. Dustin, I think, is one of the best strikers in MMA because he's just so clean and crisp, and you know, he has a very high IQ. You know, knowing where a guy's head's going to be before, knowing a guy's habits of head, knowing setups. You know, he comes from a good gym, so, you know, anything to do with Dustin doesn't surprise me at all. You know, falling short of winning a title, nothing. You know, him winning a title doesn't surprise me. Nothing with Dustin Poirier surprised me. But, you know, but Eddie, you know, it was a definitely rough camp for him. He had a stinger. He really didn't get the rest of all camp, but that doesn't, you know, sometimes even the shorter camps, like Marlon won with a 2-week camp, Corey won with a 2-week camp. So, you know, sometimes they go great, sometimes they don't. Guys have won injured, or guys have won, you know, when they've been in amazing shape. But, you know, this one was a little tougher, but still he was definitely well prepared for the fight.
How serious was the stinger? Like, was there any fear that he'd have to pull out?
I told him to, but he knew what he was. You know, he even the morning of the thing, he took just a little light shot on Ricardo, and what would happen is his whole arm would go numb. You know, that was in the morning, and you know, he really didn't wrestle the whole entire camp. Sparring, he probably did half, but still, you know, once you fight, you know, all that goes away. You know what I'm saying? And you know, he definitely, you know, knew what he was doing. Now, the only thing I was worried about was the wrestling part. You know, I always want Eddie to wrestle because his you know, his top game is just so good. You know, his wrestling's very good, but once Eddie gets you to the ground, his wrestling defense is out of control. When he gets you down, man, he's just so stifling, and his ground and pound is so amazing. But the kid, you know, just wants to brawl. You know, he's like, the fans don't like it, da-da-da. So, you know, that's always our argument. Gaethje, you know, Gaethje will kind of stand in front and brawl. So when someone brawls or throws as hard as Gaethje does, they're easier to take down. He doesn't want to hear any of it. So, you know, but when Eddie's a mixed martial artist, man, he's unstoppable, man, you know. And, you know, and he was ready for this fight, man. You know, we were really excited for it, you know, and, you know, 100% credit to Dustin. Dustin, you can't make a mistake with the kid, you know, and not many people could do the 20-punch combinations that he could do either, you know, like you see with Holloway, Dillashaw when he finished out Barao. Holloway, with Aldo. I think Stevens tried to do the same thing, but Holloway's different, man. Not everybody could do what Holloway does, and nobody, and I think that Dustin has that same type of, he come off with a 20-punch clip. That's just everything is precise, and he's smart enough to know where your head's going to be, and draw you into putting your head in certain places, and that's why he's, where he's at now, highly ranked, and an amazing fighter.
Okay, so let's talk about the finishing sequence, if you will. Eddie is in mount, and it appears as though he's in a pretty dominant position, and then he is caught, if you want to put it that way, throwing a 12-6 elbow. It doesn't hit Dustin's head, but it does hit what appears to be his shoulder, and afterwards a lot of footage comes out of what appears to be you telling him to throw that elbow. Could you tell us what you were telling Eddie, and did he do what you were trying to tell him to do?
Yeah, definitely yes, and kind of no. I'd say more yes. I'm no idiot. I mean, I don't know if people know it, but the referee who's gonna, do your fight comes to the locker room before every single fight. And they'll say a few things, but the one thing the referee will always say is there's no 12 to 6. It's basically like kneeing somebody in the private. You know what I'm saying? You just don't do it, and every coach knows it, and I know it. And what I wanted from Eddie, you'll see a lot of times, because Eddie had him in kind of a different situation. He had him up against the fence, and his head was a little lower. It was kind of near his torso. And, when you can't really generate enough power, with punches. So you see a lot of times guys get a high crotch single, and they'll come with a side elbow, and it knocks people out. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I kind of wanted, was him to do a slanted elbow. But it's so hard to hear now. I mean, like, at that point, everybody's screaming, even though he was close to our thing. Like, the place was going nuts. It's hard to hear. I wanted him to know. I wanted him to elbow. I think the first gesture you could see from me is definitely 100% wrong gesture. But I wanted to let him know we wanted elbows. And the second one I did, you could see a little bit. I'm kind of slapping the inside of my elbow. I really didn't look at it too much. But, that's the elbow that I wanted. I even talked to Frankie after, and, because, I'm starting to start down on myself, and Frankie's like, man, I know what you meant. I know you can't do that elbow. I'm no idiot. You know what I'm saying? So, that's the elbow I wanted. I think, but what I showed him, just to let him know I wanted elbows, was definitely, not the right elbow to do. And I believe if you look at the thing, he looked at me at that moment. I really don't remember him in the fight looking at me, but I guess in the tape you see it. So if you go by the tape and the first elbow I showed, out of a scale of 1 to 10, did he do what I say? I'd say I'd give it 100. If you're going by fault, 1 to 10, I'd give it 1,000 of my fault. So, I'd say definitely it was my fault. I showed the wrong elbow. I'm no idiot. I know what elbow I meant, but it's not what I showed. And, so definitely, I'm feeling horrible. I don't care about, what people say to me. I could care less. Besides it being Eddie or his family or his fans, everybody else I care less. But, I feel like I let Eddie down, man. Eddie, he's a great guy, man. I love him. He's like a brother. I don't train guys. We don't have a big gym. Ricardo and I, we kind of select guys that we like, and, I have another business, and Ricardo does also. So we take guys that we really like, and I love Eddie, man. Like, if you know Eddie, man, if you get to know this kid, like, everybody loves this kid. He just is that type of guy that when he walks into a room, the whole room, he'll bring up to a whole nother level. And I know Eddie for years. That elbow was on me, not him. He's not a cheap fighter. Eddie's never once. I've seen this kid spar thousands of rounds from before his days at Bellator, years ago, I've been with Eddie, and I've never seen him do not one single, cheap thing in sparring or in a fight. Just Dustin and him just, they just bring out, they're both amazing fighters. They both have that quality and that style that people love. I mean, Dustin, even grabbed the fence and kneed him, and Dustin no way by any means meant to, or did it defer what would have happened. He was definitely going to probably finish him, and it didn't deter anything. But that's the way these two are, man. Like, these two are animals, man. These two are, type of fights that people want to see, and I think, it brings out, little things like that, but they really don't mean anything. Like, and Dustin's such a warrior, and is that, the first fight when, Dustin got kneed in the head, they're saying, oh, was it, did he stop? Of course Dustin didn't. And it goes to show you in this fight, because Dustin said right away when it happened, he said to Eddie, and I think Mark Goddard, who I think is an amazing referee, I wish he would have gave us a warning, but he's still one of the best. And, the call was right. I would love to see Mark again in our corners again. I have that much faith in him. He's one of the best. But, Dustin coming up off when they stood it up, said to Eddie, it missed, it didn't hurt, and he said, I think, to the referee, that's the type of guy Dustin has, when so many guys are faking, and, oh, it hurts, and they're grabbing, their shoulder or whatever. Dustin said the total opposite, because, that's the type of guy that Dustin is. You know what I'm saying? He's a warrior. He's he's an honest kid. This kid has everything he's ever fought for. He's beyond earned. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Mark, how do you feel about the decision to stand them up? And I know you touched on that, but larger picture, just that rule in general, the 12-6 rule, because I know Big John McCarthy has talked about it in the past and others have. And even Goddard, when he was talking to Eddie, said, it's not my rule, but this is the rule. How do you feel about, the rule and also his decision to stand him up? He had also mentioned that Eddie was grabbing onto the cage and clawing the ear as he was doing it. He said that on Twitter.
Yeah, what did Dustin say? Give him a Willie or something.
Yeah.
But I think I like the rule. Anything that protects the fighter, I like. So, if that shot comes down to the top of the head, man, that's dangerous. Or it comes down to the spine. I love that rule. I think it's a great rule. But I think that the angle on where Goddard was, he couldn't really see where it landed. And I think if you were on the other side, it looked a lot worse than it was. And, I wish he would have got a warning. I believe he should have got a warning, but I think what his call was 100% right, and coming from the angle you saw it from, and coming what Goddard's allowed to do within the rules, he was 100% right, A lot of times they'll warn you on it. I didn't see the other stuff that, was going on right before that, so, if he wants to say those three things happened in sequence, I could definitely see where he's coming from. But Mark Goddard's an amazing referee, and if Goddard did our next fight with Zabit, I would love, him in the corner, So refereeing, in the octagon, not in the corner, but in the octagon with us. What he called was 100% right.
Obviously, when he stood him up, the tide quickly turned in Dustin's way. Do you feel like any of that, mentally played with Eddie negatively? I mean, it was very quickly did Dustin capitalize. Did you talk to him afterwards about how he couldn't adjust? Do you feel like that's just bad timing? It was a coincidence that Dustin was able to capitalize that quickly?
Yeah, I talked to him after. It's dejecting. When they stand it up, especially where you had the position he was in. He just had him in a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
He had him he had him full mount, like totally with his weight up against the fence. Which was an amazing position to have. You couldn't have anybody in a better position, just jammed up like that. So it's definitely dejecting, and I give credit to Dustin too, man. Dustin, was in Dustin was getting his next, he was, it was in a rear naked choke, he went through a sequence where he's underneath, and I give him a ton of credit for having the cardio to be able to rebound that quick when he stood up, because usually it takes a little bit to get your gas back, and how fast that Dustin recovered, man, when he stood up, is definitely credit to him. And like I said, with Dustin, man, you cannot make a mistake. He's too precise, man, and he's a southpaw. He knows what to do with righties more than we know what to do with southpaws, because he spars righties, all the time. We don't spar southpaws all the time. But like I'm saying, you can't make a mistake with the kid. And, when it happened, I knew something like that could happen with Dustin. I've seen it. And Dustin has even been with us to help out Frankie. I've seen it firsthand of how amazing, of a striker he is. I think he's one of the best strikers in all of MMA. You're talking about pure boxing.
Okay.
Take away kicks, wrestling.
And so it seems also like he may have hit Eddie in the groin, and he may have held onto the cage as well in that finishing sequence. Did you see any of that? And do you know if that affected Eddie at all?
It didn't happen. It happened so fast, but I saw, people were sending, clips, posts and stuff like that, or and people have to know too. Like when I see these videos or these clips or whatever, I don't look for them. Like people tag
Yes,
you all the time, or they'll DM you. Like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting DM'd on, everything. People call me a non-Christian, DMing me.
Jeez.
I'm getting, and I'm cheap, as I called it, an illegal elbow. But it don't bother me. But I saw the fence thing. I saw the knee, but that had nothing to do with the ending. It was going to go the way it was, and I think the knee and the fence definitely didn't alter, those kicks or the finishing whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like that. Like Eddie after the fight was holding his groin. You know what I'm saying? Or that kick was the last one that Eddie just face planted off the kick. So I think that those two things totally were irrelevant. And that's what I'm saying, like little things like that go so fast, or the elbow Eddie missed and hit his shoulder, like those things, should be warnings, or, like even Dustin, I'm happy they didn't stop it, because, it would have took from him, because I think it was so irrelevant, the grab and the knee, that, it shouldn't have been stopped. And, same thing with the elbow, when it doesn't alter, when that certain blow doesn't alter what's going on, just like in football, or where it could change a whole game, or I'm glad when they're not, when the action is being stopped and a guy's on a momentum, on a roll,
Mm-hmm. It appeared as though there was some kind of confrontation between you two, because he referenced it, Dustin did, to John Anik in the post-fight interview, and it seemed like he was talking about you. What happened? It wasn't on camera, but did he say something to you afterwards?
He was jacked up, and him and Eddie were saying stuff, and and that thing with Eddie, man, Eddie, the whole camp, or Eddie behind doors, Eddie has the highest regard for Dustin. Always says great things, about anybody he's fighting. But when it's time to sell a fight, or the microphone's in his face, he's not saying what he's saying to us. You know what I'm saying? And some people do it that way because it is entertainment, and they need to, hire their stock, and people need to watch and stuff like that. And Eddie does an amazing job of that. And Eddie's funny, and he's smart, and some people, maybe they're not good with it, like a Frankie, but Eddie, is a character, man. You know what I'm saying? And he's funny. So when he says stuff, I'm down. But I think with Dustin, which Dustin's such an honorable guy, and I know Dustin personally, I think the quitting thing said to him. I don't think he knew that I had done interviews, and every interview I did, when asked about if Dustin quit, I said the total opposite. I said, no, I know Dustin personally. Dustin would never do that. But I think when Eddie was saying it, since he didn't hear anything, just me being quiet about it, that I was, that I agreed to that he quit, which is totally false. So after, when I went to go shake his hand, to go congratulate him, he had some choice words to get away, which I was, it's his moment. I know he's hyped up, and then Ray Robinson, who people don't know, is also in our corner. He even got ranked up to number 3 WBC boxer. He said, "You too," and then him and Ray were kind of going at it. And Ray's like, "I'll throw down with you right now." I don't know if people knew that, but Ray was ready to throw down with him, and Ray wanted to throw down right there. And Ray's a phenomenal boxer, man. And like I said, he was ranked 3 WBC one time. So so at that point, I grabbed Ray, and then I went up to Dustin, and I said, "Dustin, just enjoy your moment, man." I'm like, you earned it. Like, don't. In my eyes, Eddie Alvarez is one of the best 155ers to ever walk the planet. He's beaten so many champions. He will fight anybody. He has amazing wrestling, but he wants to strike. You know what I'm saying? Which makes him even a better, in my eyes, even more of a ruthless fighter, a guy that wants to fight for the fans and gives up certain advantages, because that's what's in his inner being, and that's what he wants for the fans. So I'm like, Dustin, man, you just beat the number 3 guy, a guy that was champion, not saying those specific words. I'm like, bro, enjoy your moment, Dustin. I'm like, don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bro, just the heck, worried about me or Ray, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, enjoy the moment, I kept telling him. and Dustin after. The second Dustin came to the backstage, right away he looked for me, he looked for our team, and, he apologized, said it was in the moment, and, everything was copacetic. But, like I said, I've done interviews leading up to that fight, and even after the fight, where it's totally false. I never think he's a quitter, but I've even gone into detail of what a wonderful fighter I thought he was, and how I know Dustin personally, and Dustin would never, just quit, just to unless he was severely hurt.
Yeah, and I've heard those interviews as well, and I did not see anything disparaging said, written, audio, video. So I'm glad to hear that you guys cleared it up. Last thing for you, Mark, and I really appreciate the time here today, and I appreciate you being so candid. Backstage, you and Eddie, obviously you're his coach, and you have a very close relationship. What was said between you two, and are you okay? Is he blaming you for this? Is he holding a grudge? How are you guys doing on this Monday?
No, we're great. We talked this morning, and the thing with the elbow, you just really didn't know until, and I didn't even know I was showing it until you start. Everything's going on so fast. You know what I'm saying? You have a split second to think. The crowd's going crazy. You can't hear. And I didn't even know it until people are tagging me. I didn't even realize that I did the gesture. We're 100% cool. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that. I love him like a brother. And but it was 100% my fault. Not even 100,000% my fault. Eddie's going to a lot of times do what I say. The whole fight, he was listening. The different things I was saying, Ricardo was saying, Ray was saying. Listening to different stuff. So, I blew it. You know what I'm saying? It's not what I meant in my head. I'm not, like I said, the biggest thing for me, I'm not an idiot. I know the rules. I'm not stupid. I know you can't do a 12-6. I've seen it and heard it 1 million times. It's not what I meant to say, but it is what I showed. And and Eddie did look at me at the time. So it's not 100, but 1,000%, my fault. And it's a shame, because the more of a shame it is because 2 to 3 judges had Eddie win in the first round. I don't know if he would have finished that round, but he would have been up 2-0. Which also doesn't mean anything either. Dustin could pour it on. And like I'm saying, Dustin, one split second, one split mistake with Dustin, and it's over. So, not saying much, but it just stinks knowing you could have been up 2. The only thing that stinks is know that it's my fault, that I love Eddie to death, and that I'm the cause of what could have maybe been different. You know what I'm saying? So, I definitely let Eddie down. You know what I'm saying? My team down. So, it sucks too, because up to when Caitlin won and beat number 3 ranked girl, Corey had a great win. I think we were at 16 out of 17 wins, which is impossible, to win 16 out of 17. And we won 16 out of 17. I think like 12 or 13 were UFC fights, and I just don't want to give my team a black eye, or Ricardo, and
you didn't do that.
Our team tries so hard. We're a small team, and I don't want our team to get a bad rep, because like I said, man, we were killing it, man. Like, we're a small team. A lot of people don't know. Like, they don't know Corey just had a massive upset, and Caitlin, was on I don't know what it was on prelims FaceTime, but she just beat a number 3 ranked girl. Marlon, doing incredible. Zabit, Sajara ranked number 2. We could have 5 people fight for the title next year. Eddie would have been 6.
Don't beat yourself up too much, Mark. Do not beat yourself. This is why you're one of the best coaches in the game, because you're taking the responsibility, you're taking the blame. But please don't beat yourself up too much. And I hope that you don't read the comments and things like that. I appreciate you coming on and clearing the air, but I hope that you're not beating yourself up too much. You've done a phenomenal job with that team, and you guys will be back. It's just one Saturday. And like you said, Caitlin Chikagian looked phenomenal earlier in the night. Thank you for doing this, Mark. I appreciate it. I'll let you run now. But again, thank you so much. And again, please don't beat yourself up over this. It was a mistake. You've owned up to it. And I think you've done so in a very classy way. So thank you for that.
You got it, bro. Like I said, send me the address. I'll give you back the award. But thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
There he is, Mark Henry, stopping by. As honest as ever. Really appreciate his time, and I appreciate him taking the blame like that. I think it's a little harsh, but that's why he is who he is.